Welcome to the Motoring Podcast, your weekly discussion of motoring news. This is episode 641 on Tuesday, the 22nd of July, 2025. Hello, I'm Andrew. And this week there is no Alan, unfortunately, so it's just me. What you'll do, though, is you will hear me discuss how some people need to learn the difference between cars and models. In new car news, you'll get to learn of a faster way to have insects smash into your face. And in points of interest, you get a history lesson about the monobox. But first, we have some follow-up. And this is the news that the government has finally caved into the relentless cries from the motoring industry to help them out financially, encourage people to buy new electric or zero-emission vehicles. And the government has launched the Electric Car Grant, which will provide discounts on cars priced below £37,000, subject to a list of criteria on top of that. That all was met before the details were let out with great fanfare and many people shouting, "Ooh, that's half of EV cars are eligible." No, at just £37,000 and ignoring all the other criteria, it's just half of EV models that are available. Big difference there. However, the criteria really does add some devil to details here. Part of it is because the eligibility for the maximum, because it's split into two. So the maximum discount you can get is £3,750. There is another level, which is £1,500. But to get the maximum, you need to hit the criteria, or to get any of the discounts, you have to meet certain criteria to do with the energy grid cleanliness where the car was manufactured. That means the likes of China, Korea, and Japan are not expected to be able to get the full discount, and possibly not any discount at all. And the government has said they don't expect any Chinese cars to be eligible for the grant. That means actually the number of cars that will be eligible, because remember, it's got to be below £37,000. Not a tremendous number of cars available do that. And it's got to be built in a country in which the CO2 emissions and the energy grid cleanliness is of a suitable standard. That is being judged by the International Energy Association's own criteria. The government are using that as the benchmark. It means that there's not going to be that many cars. And I've tried to work it out, and I think you're going to get some Stellantis. Obviously, Vauxhall is involved in that because they build stuff here as well. Renault, because I think France's energy grid is okay. I'm not sure you're going to get any that are made in Germany. I think Cupra might be if they produce something under 37,000, because the Spanish grid is quite clean. I don't know what the Czech grid is, so I don't know about Skoda. Down the line, next year, Mini, their Oxford plant, will be producing electric vehicles. And there's some of those models are available under £37,000. Then you've got the Nissan Leaf and the Micra coming in at some point later in the year. They should be under the threshold. There is actually not going to be that many vehicles that are going to be entitled to the full criteria, or let alone the grant at all. The extra bonus on this is the SMMT, as you've heard us say, every month has been calling for help with private cars. This grant is applicable to all sales. So it will go to fleet, it could go to business, as well as private. However, in reality, there probably it won't distort too much on the fleet side of things, because the benefit in kind is always much better at the more expensive end of the market. So it's really in favour of managers and senior managers, and not for the worker bees who would be looking at the sub £37,000 cars. Some people have said, this is brilliant, this will fix all our woes, etc., because, everything has to be such an extreme. However, others have said it's not actually going to help that much. One, because of how few cars are actually going to be eligible, but also the potential for further damage to depreciation of new or nearly new electric cars. That's already a massive, massive problem for the industry. Remember, we covered last year that there was the second largest leasing firm took out insurance specific to depreciation on electric cars because it was far worse than they anticipated and then adjusted for. It was still worse than that. Lex Auto Lease made a £10 million loss last year. A lot of that they are putting down to electric vehicles and the difference between what was expected and what is the actual market value. That's not a sustainable thing. That potentially brings a bigger problem further down the line because somebody, as we keep saying when we talk about this, somebody has to pick up that can. Somebody has to pay for that somewhere. Hopefully that isn't what's going to happen, but I can easily see it being the case. We will have linked in the show notes an article explaining the overall grant, and then there will be another article that is linked that explains how the Asian car makers are not likely to get any of the grants, or their cars are not eligible. Anyway, let's move on to the next bit of follow-up. And this is the news that Renault Group has appointed Duncan Minto, who was the Chief Financial Officer, was appointed only back in March. He is now going to take over the interim CEO position whilst the search continues for a new permanent CEO. There is a link to an Autocar article in here that you can check out to read some more on that. But essentially, they're just trying to create some stability in the time that they are looking for the new boss. We go on to new news. And this came out before the news about the EV grant and how Chinese cars were going to be impacted. But China has restricted battery cathode material technology exports, according to the Electrive article linked in the show notes. Beijing, it says here, has added a battery cathode material preparation technology to its restricted export list. That will affect lithium iron phosphate and related technologies. They will have to have export licenses, and this is all to do with the Chinese authorities claiming that it is now a security-related issue. Okay. But this is involved in lithium-ion battery production, which is what a lot of the electric vehicles and energy storage use for their power needs. Not good, but what's what happens when you allow one country, same in business, or a company to basically have the monopoly or effectively have the monopoly. They don't control all the world's supply chain for batteries, but they control the vast majority of it, particularly percentage-wise. This was always going to happen, so I don't know what that means down the line. Does this make batteries become more expensive again, as their prices had been dropping? Or is this them just flexing to go, be careful what you keep saying about us, be careful how you keep trying to inhibit our other products, as in cars and technology, or we will stop you being able to get hold of material you want from us. Again, eyes will be on that to see if that goes any further. Some not great news coming from JLR, and they are going to offer voluntary redundancy as they have had an 11% drop in sales in the last quarter. A lot of that, almost all of that, is put onto the fact that the US import tariff kerfuffle mess farce has happened, and JLR had to stop all exports to the US when they were announced. They've now restarted them following the 10% agreement, but they reckon that up to 500 workers will leave the business through this voluntary redundancy, and it's managerial positions. But according to this Autocar article, JLR has not said which specific departments will be affected nor which of its UK facilities. Interesting. Also this week, it's not been included because it came out quite late, but it will be in next week's show. There was a discussion of how JLR are delaying the release of the electric Range Rover for further development, apparently. And they are also looking at their future product lineup, as so many car manufacturers are doing at the moment, because they are seeing the market be very positive in terms of hybrids and plug-in hybrids, not just jumping all to electric. Plus, you've also got some governments stating that they are now not going to be favouring EVs, and they are changing back to pushing for internal combustion engine vehicles. What a great time to be a car manufacturer. Yeah, good luck to everybody at Jaguar who takes that voluntary redundancy. I hope it all works out for you there. But hopefully it's not a sign of more of that to come across the UK car production industry. Here was a bit of a surprise one, but Geely has delisted ZEEKER from the New York Stock Exchange. They only put it on there. They only did the IPO last year, I believe, and ZEEKER is the luxury electric vehicle maker. Geely had a 62.8% stake in the company. They've now agreed to buy the remaining 37.2%. And it looks like it's going to be $2.4 billion in order to do that. I wasn't sure why they did this because they had such a big stake anyway, but apparently it's keeping costs down because there's going to be more internal synergy. They want it to be fully integrated with other Geely technologies, further enhance their ability to purchase things on a group-wide scale, which then brings costs down, etc. And also helping with development costs as well. They can share across other platforms. We'll see if it makes a difference because we don't get ZEEKER in the UK yet. So we'll have to see if that is now the next stage is to start pushing this out to other countries, because it's in some of Northern Europe, but it's not been a massive sales push, I don't think. Back to Blighty, and the UK government is asking for feedback on autonomous taxi rollout. We are linking to an Autocar article as well as the government's own consultation page itself, so you can, if you wish, you can read what the proposals are for legislation, but then add your comments as an individual or an organisation to help guide the government. But to be clear, the government have made it clear that autonomous vehicles are coming. So don't argue that. They're saying we've already sorted that side of things. This is purely to do with taxis and how should they be rolled out. And they're asking for things like what information, what do we need to do, how do they need to show that they're helping older and disabled people, stuff. And the questions, I've run through it, and the questions are very much geared for, yes, we're doing this anyway. It doesn't matter what you say. It doesn't matter how you respond to this. We're trying to fudge these questions so that you can only give us positive answers. But at least there is the potential to ask for more information than they are possibly looking to get from these companies. As we've seen in America, with the likes of the autonomous taxi services out there, the companies fight tooth and nail to not release any information at all if they can help it. They all hide behind, this is proprietary technology, it's important. But when we're talking about safety incidents, it's vital that that is shared, and that is shared pretty much in real time, because it should be. They've got the ability to do that. They've got the ability, or they should have the ability to do that. So when I talk about incidents, not only am I talking about collisions, I'm talking about near misses. I'm talking about the number of times that the safety driver has had to take over or inputs anything at all. I think it should also be that when the car has near misses, it should also be when the car fails to comply with road conditions, and it should be when the car doesn't actually handle the road conditions at all, such as I've just seen just yesterday on Blue Sky, there's a video of a Waymo getting confused at a junction, and so it just stops in the middle of a junction. That sort of thing needs passing on, because the track record isn't good, the technology's not there. This shouldn't be on our streets, but our government and previous governments have decided that Magic Beans technology works. So here we are. Again, if you want to give your feedback, the links will be in the show notes on that one. Right, in much more positive news, and actually that wasn't a pun intended because I'm going to talk about EV chargers now. And eVolt has installed chargers at 9 historic sites in Wales. This is brilliant news because Wales really needs more help. It's got a lot better than when we did charging around Britain 9.5 years ago. No, 9 years, nearly 9 years ago, yes. Nearly 9 years ago, where there was 4 across all of Wales. Now there's much more. But these are going to be at the historic sites. So there's places like Tintern Abbey, Harlech Castle. They're also in Carnarvon, Caerphilly, Crumlin, and Haverfordwest as well. It helps plug in the gaps. Again, oh dear. It's so hard talking about chargers without just tripping up into puntastic territory. And they're not even good puns either. They just happen to be associated. So it's even worse. But this is a good thing for Wales. And more of this, please. Get Wales better served. There's much, much needed over there. But not only, and we're going to, again, stick with charging, and I'm going to go back to the UK government, because at the same time as they announced the electric car grant, they also announced the Depot Charging Scheme, which is a grant to help install electric vehicle charging infrastructure at fleet depots. However, whereas the electric vehicle charging grant is going up to 28-29, this one is running from the 16th of July until November. If you have a fleet and you are looking to electrify and you have the ability to add chargers, or at least get far enough along to be applicable to get some of the costs helped with, then get your claim in. It's across the UK, but does not include the Channel Islands or the Isle of Man. Then it will go to the 28th of November 2025 or until the funding is exhausted, because they are putting aside, how much are they associating here? It doesn't say how much they're giving. But applicants can apply for up to $1 million in funding, covering up to 75% of the costs associated with charge point installation and related civil works, according to this Electrive article. Once again, as ever, linked in the show notes. But this is good. Fleets, particularly if they're local fleets, electric vehicles are making more sense if it is a limited operational domain and they are always going back to home base. This could be a good thing. What isn't good, though, moving on, is Stellantis has decided to pull the plug on furthering vehicles to do with hydrogen. They putting a lot of this down to how poor the infrastructure is and the high costs of actually getting hydrogen and paying for the hydrogen you put in the vehicles. Not surprised by this at all. I think the hydrogen industry has failed to learn one of the biggest wins that the electric vehicle industry had, which was that Tesla created its own charging infrastructure. Nobody's put in hydrogen charging infrastructure, so at that point, it's chickens and eggs both waiting for one or the other, and it's not happening. And this is forgetting how difficult it is to make green hydrogen. Even grey hydrogen is very expensive, particularly associated with electricity costs and how they've been so high. I am not surprised that it's not happening at all, which is a shame, because I think it is an option. I think it's something that does need to be explored, and I hope that we don't cut off an avenue just because there's been short-sightedness or laziness of an industry to not help itself. Bit of tech news from Mercedes-Benz. Hoi, sit down and prep yourself for this headline. Mercedes-Benz will let you use an in-car camera in Microsoft Teams while driving. Now, this is on The Verge, and I think, but I haven't had a chance to establish it yet, but I think this is only in the US. I really hope it's only in the US, and it seems like it is only a US type thing that would be allowed because, you know, safety's somewhere in the top 20 things to look at, but not in the top 5. What people need is they need to be bothered whilst driving. They need to be holding business calls whilst driving. This is mad on a number of levels. Oh, just to be clear, you can't see a Teams video call if you're in the car. It will have people's names, but there's no video. You're not looking at someone's face or anything. You won't even be tempted to look because that does not come up on the screen. You are only hearing the audio, but through it's called the selfie camera or in-car camera that Mercedes-Benz has fitted to a couple of their vehicles. Your workers can see that you are driving along whilst working. I don't quite know why that's a hero move in any way. There is oodles of research that shows having just a hands-free call is horrifically impairing to our cognitive ability to drive. Adding the ability for more people to get in touch with you more of the time just seems utterly, utterly mad. Let alone that it's Teams. I mean, good luck that it doesn't crash. As in the app, not the car, that the app doesn't crash or cause frustration through the way that Microsoft choose to do software and apps. But yeah, that's absolutely nuts. Right, I fairly rattled through there, but we had quite a bit of news to get through. But we have reached the point in the show where it's Guilt Minute, their quick break in the show where we ask for a tad of financial support to keep the lights on and the hosting running. If you feel that the Motoring Podcast is worth a small consideration every month, then you can become a patron. Different levels of patron include different levels of commitment from us to you, including being able to watch the show recorded live. We also have a small range of merchandise in our spring store, from stickers to mugs and t-shirts. And if you don't have any spare cash, and we completely understand that, then you can help us by following for free from a podcast player to receive every show as they're released, and by liking and rating the show in whatever way your podcast supplier lets you. Also, please, if you haven't already, if you could subscribe on YouTube, that would be awesome. We are inching our way ever closer to the 500 subscribers mark that Alan has been asking previously that you could help us get to, because it does make a difference to the show if we can hit that first target. If you could, and you haven't already, please do so. If you've done all that, and some of you do, so thank you very much, then the last thing you can do is recommend us to your friends and colleagues. Right, we go into new car news. And last week we talked about Chery coming to the UK with some SUVs, and we're going to talk about the first one that was revealed on that, and it is the Tiggo 8 Super Hybrid. This is a 745 maximum range hybrid that will go all out on one tank of fuel and one charge with the electricity, apparently. It uses the super hybrid system that Armada 7 already has. That takes a 1.5 litre turbo petrol engine, adds the electricness to it, and gives out 201 brake horsepower and 269 pound-feet of torque. It will apparently go up to 56 miles just on electric only, which is okay. It's okay. There's others going further than that now. But it will plug into a faster charger, which is very cool. There's lots of talk about it being luxury, and by luxury they mean software and technology. So, yes, you can think about the usual sort of touchscreen type stuff, as well as safety driver assistant features. That's adaptive cruise control, cabin filtration, lane center assist, all that sort of malarkey. But they were knocked back from 5 stars by Euro NCAP because one of the curtain airbags would not deploy correctly. It's down to 4 stars, and the brand has been asked to go and check the system's design. But according to this Top Gear article, there's a 7-year warranty, but we don't know what the full UK specs and prices are yet. Is it going to be competitively pitched and fully loaded with deliveries expected by late summer? Competitively pitched, I don't know what they're pitching against, though. That's my problem. When we get more information on this, we will, of course, share it with you. However, specs we do know about, that is the Hyundai Ioniq 9, which is their, well, massive SUV, electric SUV, I think, which will relate on the underpinnings to the sister EV9 from Kia. The prices are going to start from £64,995. That makes it, according to this Autocar article, £20,000 cheaper than the Volvo EX90 half that of the Mercedes-Benz EQS SUV, and it's the same price as the Kia EV9. Right, it's going to have up to 421 brake horsepower, a maximum range of 385 miles. It shares the same eGMP platform as the Ioniq 5 and the Ioniq 6. This is, again, Hyundai not really looking like any other car in the range. There are hints of it. I must say, the back end does give me some vibes, particularly the indoor green shot, some vibes of Volvo estates of old in the sort of the hips and the way it's shaped going up and over across the back of the car. I do quite like that. The front is reminiscent of the Konas and that sort of thing. It's sort of smooth. It's blunt and bluff front, but smoothed off. There's lots of lines that lead off from other places, but they do it in straight lines. There's not too many slashes and swoops. I think you either are going to like it or you're not. I expect it's going to be really lovely to drive, as the EV9 was for Kia. But with the announcement of the Range Rover Electric being delayed, does this cause an opening for the Ioniq 9 to capture some additional customers? That will be interesting to see. Okay, I mentioned at the introduction of the show that there is a new way in which you can have bugs smash into your face even quicker than previously, and that is thank you to the Ariel Atom 4RR. This now has, according to the Evo article headline, a higher power-to-weight ratio than a Bugatti Chiron, which is quite something. What they've done is they've taken a Civic Type R engine and cranked it up even more, my word. So it's now more powerful than the V8 that they had fitted previously. This is all in celebration of the 25th anniversary of the Atom coming out. 25 years? Now that makes me feel very old. That really does. Blimey. The 4RR will have 400 brake horsepower. Oh, wow. That's quite a lot. That's an incredible amount. And it has a lot of the same external looks as the Atom 4R. So there's the same front splitter, the Formula-style rear wing, the side pods that, depending on what side it is, carry the intercooler or the cooling radiator. It's going to be one of the most ridiculously hilarious ways in which to get from 0 to 60 and back down again and round roads in the typical way of absolutely no environmental protection to you if there is any weather of any kind. What a hilariously brilliant car that is. Wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. Can't wait to see that being thrown around on a YouTube channel soon. Right, that takes us into points of interest. And after the many, many videos that we gave you last week to catch up on Goodwood, I'm giving you yet another video, but this one isn't as long. And this comes from Autodidact. And he has done a design review on monoboxes, particularly the Twingo and the original Mark I A-Class from Mercedes. It's only just over 11 minutes, but it's a wonderful bit of information. It's just a wonderful video where he dives into the where-befores, the whys, the history of monoboxes and how it wasn't, the late 90s that did that, and then explains how they were interpreted and executed by both Renault and Mercedes. Great to hear from Autodidact. His knowledge and ability to communicate things is brilliant. I love any of his stuff. Do check out that video, and then do go subscribe to his channel as well. List of the week. As there's only me, I don't need it to be a big list. And this is from Haggerty, and thanks to Anthony Ingram. It is titled 10 More Old Car Features We Miss. Okay, we have a number of ones here. There's one here I didn't even know about, actually. And I'm old, but I still didn't know about it, and I can see why it doesn't exist, I have to say. But yes, I think of all the ones in here, and they're all very good. There's one I particularly like that's connected with Beetles and Saabs that I nearly plumped for, but in the end, I plumped for the final one, which Anthony has titled, Please, for the love of all that's holy, actual buttons. And I think pretty much everybody that listens to this show will be on board with that. Whilst touchscreens and that technology has enhanced trips in its ability to make certain things easier, such as infotainment, ditching buttons and trying to put more and more stuff into such things has not gone as well. It's not been executed well, it's not been received well, and now legislators are looking at it. It's just not gone well. Absolutely on board with this, Anthony. When you go into an older car that doesn't have a touchscreen or only has a couple of functions in the touchscreen, it is amazing how easy it feels to use those physical interfaces as opposed to prodding a screen whilst having to look at it. Don't see anyone disagreeing with that, but you may also like some of the others that are in here. There are some cracking suggestions as well that I nearly picked, but I couldn't go beyond buttons, I'm afraid. And then for the and finally, I'm going to take you down history lane. Well, or maybe introduce you to something depending on your age. But for those of us who remember Tomorrow's World, yes, we are of a certain age now, sorry. Back in 1984, they did a piece about CD players coming to your car, and they explained how tricky it was. And it's only 3.5 minutes, but it's a wonderful reminder of actually how astonishing it is that technology was adopted pretty quickly. But not only that, the technical aspects they had to overcome to make it work reliably. And it is a great reminder of, I think, how good things like Tomorrow's World was at opening our eyes. They weren't suggesting that these things were always going to happen, but they gave us an insight into what was possible. I mean, we have the internet now, so we all see that. This one was fun for me on a number of levels. So do click that, and I hope you enjoy it. And that's us. Alan should be back next week. You'll be delighted to hear, so you don't have to listen to me droning on. But in the meantime, don't forget that between now and next week, you can give us any feedback and share your thoughts with the show at motoringpodcast.com on Blue Sky, Motoring Podcast on Instagram and Facebook, and on the contact page of www.motoringpodcast.com, the hub of all our activities. Remember, you can support us financially via Patreon, and please leave a review and rating on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, or however your podcast app lets you do such a thing. The best way to get in touch with Alan is if you search for AJP Bradley, that's Bradley on Blue Sky. If you want to get in touch with me, you search for Crack Windscreen on Blue Sky as well. We'll be back very soon, but until then, he's not been Alan Bradley. I've been Andrew Clues, and safe motoring.